Hello there, Jarod the Dark Jedi here. As all of you are aware, the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild are both on strike. And after some consideration, it has been determined that review content, like what is mostly predominantly makes up a lot of what we produce, is still going to be not considered crossing the picket line. It is still encouraged by the Screen Actors Guild, who established new terms additional to what was being asked to be complied with the WGA. What we do here, the conversations we love to have with a bunch of our friends, to have with you guys, is not possible. The stories we love to talk about, the stories that we love, do not get made without the blood, sweat, tears, creativity, and brilliance of the writers and actors. And currently, the studios who produce the things we love um, are working these writers and actors to death, not compensating them appropriately, and are trying to replace them with AI. I would think it goes without saying that the Nerd Academy podcast stands staunchly with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, and we'll be supporting them from here until the end of these strikes in whatever way that we can. There will be links in each episode description so that you are able to see how you can help, where you can help, how you can donate to different funds to keep food in the belly and roofs over the heads of the writers and actors who are trying to make historic change in Hollywood as we speak. This review, this discussion, this news roundup, whatever the episode may be.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior web headmaster, Jarod Bachman Stubbs, and joining me, as always, is, I was going to say the Miles to my Peter, because I'm the host. But then it occurred to me that back in our younger years, I'm actually the Miles to his Peter. Just clicked with me for a moment there. I couldn't quite say what I was about to say. Also, we're both very white. It's Travis Grossman.
I'm neither Latino nor African American, so. Although
when you started
on
saying
what time,
that,
depending on the time of the millennium and who you ask, we might have been considered not white.
That's true. That's true. We do have the Dago pass. That is the ethnic slur de jure that we are allowed to say.
Although I don't get the other one because we do have papers. I have proof that we have papers.
Yes, you do.
We have papers about getting turned away. We got turned away once.
It's not that we don't have papers. We have no papers. It is papers that say no. Yeah. So what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Whenever you started saying that, I thought you were about to do the thing that Andrew says in No Way Home, where when Electro was like, "Man, I thought you were going to be black," and he's just like, "I'm sorry." Just the immediate, "I'm sorry, I'm white." Oh, I don't like it either. I don't want to play for this team. But yeah, very exciting stuff, guys. If any of you are curious, we are not going to be talking story spoilers for Spider-Man 2. I have beaten the game. Travis is on the last level. Um,
My save file says 90%. I took
we
I I didn't mean to do all the side stuff that I did. Last night, I say last night, yesterday afternoon, maybe around like 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. I'm gonna start doing some side stuff. This combat's been kind of tricky. I want to build up my abilities, which means I gotta do side missions. Let's get some of those done. And that became, what if I just did all of them?
I have been doing a pretty healthy mix of side mission and main story stuff
I
to
was at first too.
for the
And
sake of leveling, mostly because I wanted to get the level 15 as soon as I could, because that's when you unlock the superior Spider-Man suit, which I would like the record to reflect. One Mr. Alden Diaz of Octo Radio and Casterly Talk once said that he knew once that suit was revealed that I would be, quote, exclusively using the superior suit and spending my edgy ass time role playing auto in the game. And I would like the record to reflect that I have stuck with the default costumes for most of my play,
same.
and only for a specific side mission because I had to switch to the superior Spider-Man suit. Not because of the game, but because thematically I couldn't not do it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. We're also, but anyway, we're not going to be talking about spoiler stuff today or story stuff today. We might talk side mission
General
stuff.
writing stuff and
General
like
writing stuff. We might talk about side mission plot lines. But don't worry if you haven't played the game. We're not going to talk about the main plot. Next week, well, technically it'll be the week after because we'll be recording it next week. So probably on Sunday of next week, fingers crossed, we will be doing a Spider-Man 2 review. And that is going to be gloves off, no holds bar, spoiler discussion about the story. Very excited for that. I cannot wait to talk about this game and just gush about it and its narrative. I think it is incredible. It is everything I love about Spider-Man, in the plural. Spider-Man, both of them, the Royal Spider-Man. And just so blown away by the story of this game, and I really want to unpack the post-credit scenes because I had a moment, and
interesting.
if you haven't beaten the game, let that be the only teaser you get from me is nervous laughter. Here's what, okay, last little stinger before we do Sunday's Bloody Mary and then talk about Loki. The story before the credits has two stingers so crazy. I didn't think we would get a post-credit scene.
Okay.
I sincerely thought that Insomniac blew their load, and I was like, okay, I'm like, say less. All right, cool. I fully accepted not to get post-credit scenes, and we get two. Man, I fucking love this franchise. Anyway, you know what else I love, Travis?
Is it the product and service that supports this channel?
Thank you. I was so hoping you were going to say products and services. Speaking of products and services, shouts out Rob Filkins, who's been with us since day one of Number One Contender, and is our fellow former cracked employee verse fan. I got my girlfriend listening to Behind the Bastards now, and she was trying to pitch it to her family that she visited while I was at work today. So
one of my cousins listened to it. I found out.
Yeah. Because of you, or like independent of you?
No, independently of me, which makes sense because like she's one of us, and so
okay, good.
Yeah, with the weekend I went to Michigan. Oh, my earbud just cut out, so that's fun. Speaking,
talking, saying words.
Okay, we're good. You clearly spoke and I couldn't hear you, and then my thing said disconnected, and I went, oh, but now it's back.
Cool.
But yeah, I drove back listening to Behind the Bastards, and I stopped and they're like, oh, so how was it? It's like a 6 or 7 hour drive, right? So I get in to visit my cousins who were visiting for the first time in like a year, and they're like, oh yeah, so what do you like? What did you listen to on the drive up? And I was like, oh, just a podcast about the history of the swastika.
So they knew immediately, like, oh, Robert.
Well, she was like, wait, which like, but what podcast? I was like, oh, it's Behind the Bastards. She goes, I love Behind the Bastards, and I went, this checks out. This makes sense.
Based. I didn't listen to the swastika one. I've been listening to the one they're doing right now about
G. Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy. Yeah, I've only
I'm-
listened to like the first episode and a half. But I love episodes of Bastards with an A, not ionized bastards with an E. Plug. That are just dealing with like Muppets of human beings. Everybody needs to listen to the Vince McMahon episodes. But
Yes.
speaking of products and services, Sunday's Bloody Mary. Folks, Sunday's Bloody Mary is the most badass Bloody Mary mix in the multiverse. They have their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. If you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, you can go ahead and get their also award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, asparagus, and rim salt if you're nasty. Get on over to the link in our description below. So you click that link and check out, use code TNAP, TNAP, and you get 10% off your order and you help out your favorite nerds while you do it. That's TNAP, TNAP at checkout. And get drunk on some vegetables. So, first things first, we're going to flip the format because I think we're going to have way more to say about Spider-Man and Loki. That's not to the detriment of Loki. It's just like there's a lot of meat on the bone with Spider-Man. So, first of all, Loki. Just going to talk about this up top. The Jonathan Majors case is still very open. There are still a lot of details that, even though there is there is evidence bandied about to his that is not flattering. There also is evidence that someone considered to be exculpatory. There is a lot to unpack with that situation, and even if the incident on March 25th ends up being found in the favor of Jonathan Majors, there is still the very real multitude of accounts saying that he is an asshole. If not criminally, it warrants being mentioned. Again, it's a very complicated situation that until actual verdicts are issued, I have just kind of opted to watch at a distance and cover as responsibly as we can. I do not want to add fuel to the fire that is sensationalizing our legal system for views and also clicks. Speaking of people in this episode who are shitheads, just again getting it out of the way because we will be praising performances, and it's part of talking about the episode, and I do not want to create the impression that just because we thought the performances were good, it is something that can undo fuckery in the real world. Tara Strong is an Islamophobic fuckwit, and as good a voice actress as she may be, it does not change the fact that she is an out-and-out bigot who has, to my very recent knowledge, been caught in 4K saying and doing some wildly racist shit.
I didn't know about that. I thought I saw something related to it on Twitter at some point, and I definitely didn't look into it at the time. Maybe it's on TikTok. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but also like,
sorry.
I assume it was about the war. I put in heavy quotes because for it to be a war, both sides have to have a standing army.
And that's another thing. I just again acknowledging fuckery up top. I am not the type You know, it's a, in my opinion, I am not going to mince words about this part. Uh, it's a fandom menace talking point to talk about escapism and talk about how these stories and the people involved with them shouldn't have bearing on our, our current living situation as human beings. Um, I find that preposterous at best and a dog whistle at worst. And that said, you don't come here for coverage about geopolitical issues. I know that Travis and I have never shied away from social commentary when it comes up in conversation. Obviously, you know, we talk a lot about pro labor uh, discussions and issues. However, as much as I do pay attention to the goings on the news and world events, um, I'm not qualified to have that conversation because I am, in the words of our great forebear Armin of Comic Book Cast, dick joke journalists who talk about cape shit. And, you know, that's what you come here for. Uh, again, we're
Yeah,
not going to,
we
we're not,
haven't we haven't done the full Robert Evans pathway of being a dick joke journalist who then decided he was going to report on the ground in Mosul during the ISIS
yeah.
invasion.
The
I
way,
still,
what were you
because
gonna
I
say?
didn't know him from Cracked, so I don't know how he went from jokes on the internet to on the ground in Mosul during the invasion. But like,
Yeah, Travis followed a very interesting path of Robert Evans fandom, a through line of this episode. Uh, of yeah, Behind the Bastards is a pretty cool show, and I'm listening to this at work. To fully becoming a Robert Evans diehard, listening to It Could Happen Here.
no, I think actually I don't remember what you had me listen to first because I remember when It Could Happen Here was coming out, it was being advertised on the radio.
I remember the
Um,
story, yeah, and you didn't,
and
and the way
like
it was being marketed, you thought it was some like crackpot.
I thought he was some right wing nut. I thought he was like a right wing dude being like, we gotta arm up because they're coming for us, kind of
Buy
bullshit.
guns, buy my food buckets, invest
Right.
in gold because fiat currency is about to be a thing of the past. Blah blah blah.
Because I had never heard of Robert Evans before. So then maybe it was you got me listening to Bastards for something. Maybe it was like a Ben Shapiro book episode or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious. And then of course 2020 happens, and you're like, you should listen to this if you have a stomach for it. And I was like, oh my god, wait, I remember this being in an ad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
If
like, yeah,
anybody who listened to us during 2020 will know, I became incredibly cagey and mildly paranoid uh, because during the Black Lives Matter protests and uprisings, and people have given me side eye when I say uprisings. That I do not say uprisings as a pejorative, and anybody who is not aware of my politics should be very well aware of the fact that when I say uprisings, I say that with a smile on my face. Um, but the Black Lives Matter protests, Robert was live streaming on Twitter at the Portland protests, and the entirety of the live chat was saying, "Oh my God, it could happen here is happening," and it could happen here was one of those like, you know, I'll get to it eventually, you know, like when the spirit moves me, eventually I'll listen to this. Um, and I'll admit, even as someone who was a fan of Robert for about 6 or so months before Travis got to it, you know, I macro dosed Behind the Bastards early into the pandemic and became a super fan super quickly. Um, I was like, fine, you know, I'll bite the bullet. And again, I liked him, but I was like, this seems a little gonzo. But people kept saying it could happen here, is happening. And then two things happened. I listened to It Could Happen Here, and as a result of that, first, it was the first time I heard about Knowledge Fight. which
Mhm.
took me from, yeah, I just have a vague fascination with right wing grifters and weirdos, to me having 2 clips of Alex Jones on our StreamYard, and me having a fascination with him as a real life villain. And then me becoming incredibly paranoid because everything Robert had said a year and a half earlier was starting to come true. And as Travis can attest, we were hanging out the night of the 2020 election, and I was not doing great. Um,
Yeah, it was a bad time. It was
uh,
a very bad
during
night.
during the "we are winning" and frankly we've won, I said, "Okay, I'm going outside," and just sat on the cold porch drinking like straight vodka for like an hour by myself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was not a good day to be me. Um, uh, how the fuck did we get to it could happen here?
Uh, talking about okay, so we went
Oh,
from Jonathan
Israel
Majors Terror
Palestine.
Strong to Palestine.
Yeah, Israel Palestine. My question to you is, which one of us ends up on a war zone in a war zone first, and which one is it?
I feel like it would be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because I don't know how to describe it. I don't know why. Kind of just the like I've lived 1,000 lives energy, and the that it's something I. It sounds weird, but the like I cherish the energy I get to have now with people that don't know me, where I'm like, oh yeah, back when I was doing this over here, and they're like, what? And part of that is they think I'm younger than I am because I'm, at a college full of 19 and 20-year-olds, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, 5 years ago when I was still in college, and they're like, wait, what? 5 years ago when I could still legally drink and whatever, and they're like, wait a minute, hold on. 5 years ago, we were 13, and I'm like, no, no, no. 5 years ago, you
You
were
were
13.
13. No, that checks out actually. I dig that. I dig that. You will be the when the second American Civil War starts. You will be our
when,
frontline reporter
yeah, no,
as I
I
turn
can
into
see it
leftist
now.
Alex Jones.
I can see now because, frankly, anytime Robert does when I was in Mosul bit, and it's not a bit, but like when he drops that to like make real comparisons to things, I like have that sudden like, oh right, he did that,
Yeah.
you know,
He was
and
in the shit.
the power to be like, yeah, when I was reporting it from Gaza, wait,
Yeah. Truly, truly. If only the apartheid state of Israel would let reporters be there.
yeah, well, yeah,
Um so all of that to say, um we are going to be talking about the performances in the show. And I do not want there to be any misunderstanding that talking about and likely praising the performances throughout the episode to be a pardon, for lack of a better word, for the alleged and or well documented shitty behavior of the actors involved in the show. Um, Again, I would like to think that is a given uh, around these parts, and that would be perceived with good faith. However, just in the name of being clear, and people understanding what's up. So, without any further ado, Travis, how are you feeling about Loki episode 3, season 2?
it was pretty good. Same. I've held the same thoughts throughout. Where like I'm enjoying the plot. I'm enjoying
You're at the
performances
halfway point. We normally,
across the board.
we
Yeah,
normally say that. We're at the halfway point.
that does it feels weird to have 50-minute episodes again, and it feels weird to only have six. Like this feels more consistent to me
Yeah,
and like more controlled. But this episode still had moments where like the dialogue suddenly shifts from being real dialogue to, so how are we going to progress the plot? What's the plot right now? I'm going to be very forward about the plot. And at this point, I don't know if that was just because like those were placeholder lines that never got switched or rewritten, or if they felt the need to do that because of how complicated the plot was.
Okay.
And they wanted to make sure that people, because I'll admit there are things that I've been forgetting or like having to remember on the fly as I watch because it's been so long since I've watched Loki season 1. That's not the show's fault. That's
Yeah.
just like time passes and therefore I forget things. So, and I just moments of, well, we have to go find a Kang variant, but like they can't say Kang because they don't know his name. But like that discussion in the beginning of like where they're going to go and what they're going to do was just felt very. How are we setting up the plot? Here's the plot. Let's go do the plot, and then they went right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't tell if it's like a fault of the show or if it was done on purpose to help understanding. But
because it's a very heady and weird show.
Right. And so like I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere, not necessarily in the writer's room, but in the like management room of the writer's room, someone went like, hey, we love what you're doing. Some people are not going to know what the fuck's going on.
Joe
know?
Donut, who's seen a couple Avengers movies, is fucking lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. We talked about this last week. I don't share that criticism. I see what you mean, and I understand what you're saying. I don't think I share that criticism. Me personally, I really did love this episode. Again, we said it, all the stuff. Jonathan Majors is a fucking scene stealer.
Yeah.
And it, only adds to my disappointment that it is not an impossibility that he is a fucking monster. Because he's fucking incredible. Between 3 turns as a version of Kang the Conqueror, we have gotten 3 distinct people. And
yeah,
granted, we've not done a lot of variant stuff across the multiverse saga, which is crazy to think about because we've had a lot of stories that have to do with the multiverse, but we haven't, we've gotten, Spider-Man, we've gotten stuff in What If, but What If is still like they're playing the character they originally played, but here's like a different sequence of events. But like the way that we got the weary elder god with He Who Remains, the vicious conqueror in Kang circa Quantumania, and then now we have this very unsure of himself scientist who like is a huckster and a scoundrel, but like doesn't really wear the trappings of that and doesn't see himself that way. Like it was very interesting to get somebody who had, trying to find the right way to put this. It was interesting seeing somebody with like absent-minded professor vibes have the reputation of Han Solo. Like it like I think the amount of like he practically has a tell that to Conja Club moment. With the guy who's like, hey, these expanding pants didn't make me taller. And he clearly knew he sold that man snake oil. He clearly knew like this shit doesn't work. But you kind of get the vibe that in his mind, he sold him a prototype because he wanted to see how it wouldn't work and in what way it would fail. Which is different than somebody who is like actively maliciously making faulty technology. And I found his characterization very fascinating.
And the number of times he said, I say number of times, I might have rewound the scene where he said it a couple times and just missed it. But he says multiple times, I think, how he feels like his ideas are ahead of the technology he has access to, which
Yeah.
checks out.
Yeah, because he
And
has like
so
the
like
TVA Bible. Yeah.
yeah, and so it makes sense that he would be making these things that on paper would work if he had different tech that are
Yeah.
now like that he knows as he makes them like this isn't gonna work. I'm still gonna
Yeah.
try to do it. I'm still like the inventor bug up here is still gonna try to make it work, but I know this is gonna work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I thought it was very fascinating, like seeing somebody take, and again, the the writer's room and showrunner, all the praise in the world for the way that they're very, very precisely and in a very efficient way paralleling the TVA plot with like what they're time traveling for. Like that, the whole thing with like, oh fuck, like here is the temporal loom. Here is this piece of impossible to wrap your brain around, you know, uh, cosmic technology. And here's the prototype. Here's the Mark One of it that is able to power a light bulb. Um, which again, it's fascinating. It paints Victor Timely as this kind of man ahead of his time, which is genius, and I love it very much. Um, I also am fascinated by Miss Minutes and Renslayer's story because I think in some ways, again, maybe this is a me thing. I feel like Ravonna Renslayer was sold the idea that she is acting out Harry Potter time travel, and that like she is setting he who remains, or he that she is setting he
I
who
see what you
remains
mean.
on the path to becoming he who Victor Timely on the path to becoming he who remains. Where in reality, he who remains knew I'm gut like whenever I make my deal with the devil offer to Loki and Sylvie, like one of them will kill me. Um, in the name of liberating time. And in doing so, shit's gonna get fucked. And because shit is fucked, we will now need to like find new me. And I
Yeah.
like the idea that it feels like Miss Minutes is aware of the fact that we're not closing a loop. We are actively like rewriting time. Um
It's less of a loop and more of a history repeats itself kind of thing.
yeah.
Is how I see it. But I do think you're right that she has been sold on this idea that they're not resetting, but like that these actions have happened
Yeah.
already, like predetermined, so that this person will become he who remains. And as long as we make sure that these things happen without any, because now we know that Sylvie and or Loki are trying to interfere. So if they interfere with these moments, we're going to be in trouble. So we got to make sure these moments happen, and then we'll get he who remains.
Yeah.
Um, which is not the case, and we know is not the case. Miss Minutes knows is not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, what I think is really interesting is that Miss Minutes' motivations are also in question now. Is that like
Yeah,
how much of what she's saying or doing may even be her following orders and not her kind of going AWOL? Which again, like I love the fact that I'm not quite sure I trust the clock AI. Um, because like we always kind of got I never don't trust Miss Minutes. Like she's meant to be so cutesy that she's uncanny and terrifying. Um, but like her that moment where she snaps with like the why won't you love me? Why won't you give me a human body? Be like now I'm not even sure that she's taking orders from the Kang who remains.
yeah,
Now like I'm not even fully sold on that anymore. And I love I love that it's almost like we're back talking about Secret Invasion with that like I don't know who to trust or what the fuck is going on and what's coming next. I feel a lot more safe and comfortable that the show's gonna stick the landing.
yeah.
Um with Secret Invasion, there was a lot of like, oh, we'll see where we're going. We're here. Obviously, there's a great deal of there are very clear seeds being planted. We just don't know what they will grow into,
Mhm.
as opposed to Secret Invasion kind of being like, hey, here's an apple tree. Okay, cool. And then I look up and a pear hits me in the head. Um, I'm very fascinated by a lot of this stuff. I love like the semi predetermined nature of, again, like kind of what we were both getting at with some of the plotting, and how I think it's like people are being deceived into thinking it's predetermined. Um, I really enjoyed, speaking of what you said with the history repeats itself, and to as a great man once said, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Um, and Sylvie calls attention to it. I love the callback to the finale of season one in the Ferris wheel. Like that was some top shelf shit.
Mhm.
With Loki,
And
with his steadfast defense of Victor Timely's life, um, and the way that conflict resolves with Sylvie. When the rubber meets the road, being like, okay, I trust you. Do not fuck me over. I'm
yeah,
counting on you to get this right. Do the right thing.
and that's why I'm not super hard on the writing for the show, or at least like not the writing, but the dialogue writing in particular. It's because for every moment where I can palpably reach out and touch what I'm talking about, um, the rest of the show is just incredible,
Yeah,
and like the meat is there for them to act off these lines and do really well.
100%, 100%. Obviously, this goes without saying. Owen Wilson continues to be just uh, almost mind-numbingly charismatic.
Yeah,
Um, I say that as a very high compliment. Um, uh,
between him and Tom, like the just having them any scene of them together doing anything, I could watch that for hours.
yeah, they could be
Like just
reading the phone book, and it would
yeah,
there would be an intrinsic charm to them
this
as scene
you given me
partners.
an hour of them walking around eating Cracker Jacks and looking at the exhibits, and I would have been like, "This is the greatest show ever."
Yeah, you truly, truly. But yeah, no, I really did like a lot of that. I'm very curious to see where the Miss Minute stuff is going. Um, kind of jumping ahead a little bit. Um, Let me hop over to the Q&A because we actually got questions this week.
Hmm.
Um, I
And I think
believe
one of them is about Loki.
one of them is about Loki, and one of them specifically is about Renslayer. Um, Actually, I think both of the questions are about that. Let me
No, there was one on
look.
Twitter that was about DC
Oh
stuff.
yeah, that was Ray's question. Yeah, director Jake, or Dracula Jake because it's spooky. Um, okay, so maybe a wild theory, but do you think Renslayer could be a Vic Kang variant? I would not
I
be shocked. I think be like I don't want to say surprised as in like, oh, I already see it coming. It would be
I don't
crazy.
think it's a wild theory. I think it's just exactly what they set up at the end. I I
Yeah.
I, I don't know what else she could be telling him.
Who
The only
else would
reason
Kang the
I have
Conqueror trust with his replacement, or
right.
replacement as in being placed again and not being usurped or slotted out for? Um,
The
who else
only
would
the-
Kang trust for putting him back in power is another version of himself.
my only and that's like my only pushback to it is Miss Minute saying it's going to make you angry, which is odd to me. But also maybe then be like learning that she is a variant would mean that she like, oh, so I could have been in charge the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's what could make her angry, is realizing that like she could have been part of this cosmic dynastic legacy,
Yeah.
and instead was chosen to be middle management by like what is implied to be Kang Prime. Um, But yeah, no, I think this episode was a fantastic. It doesn't come up as often as it should. I know I mention it pretty frequently, but I just the score, the score, the score, the score, the score, the score. That like mournful, reflective um melody that we get with Loki when he's like staring at the statues of Balder, Thor, and Odin.
Hmm.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I know that a lot of people love to do the like MCU humor sucks and never let a serious moment stick around for too long. And sure, there might be instances where, that you can make that argument. I've made that argument about a handful of things. I think it's overblown, in my opinion, with how often we put a lot of weight on that. But um, I really liked the way that moment played. I really liked his Thor's not that tall anyway. Um, where you're not again. I think we need to remember this Loki is not the one who is strangled by Thanos. This is a Loki who is like still kind of fresh out of getting his shit rocked by the Avengers during the Battle of New York, and the idea that like he's not quite accepted his capacity to get over his resentment for Thor yet. He's
Hmm.
not quite worked up the ability to like absolve that resentment, you know? And I like the idea that like in that reflective moment of him clearly going, "Man, I miss my fucking family." You know? And he hasn't gotten the, he knows that what he was destined for was intentionally or not, or even if this is a valid way to put it, but in his mind that he's responsible for Frigga's death. That all he knows is the tragedy that he was supposed to live. What he doesn't understand and what he doesn't fully grasp yet is the way that it molded him into a better man.
Hmm.
And seeing him not quite accept how he's feeling in the moment, that I just think that moment played so well, and I thought it was executed fantastically. And again, a great deal of that is on Mr. Hiddleston's performance. Um, but yeah, it was a phenomenal episode. If I have any critique, it would be that I didn't love. It's not I didn't love. There was a weird pacing and abruptness to the double cross with Victor and Renslayer.
Yes.
You know, like that
Yes.
one. That kind of was like boom. And here's the thing.
That's
Um,
the scene I had to rewind a bunch because I was watching it with Lexi, and the thing happened, and we both went, "Did we miss something?" And I backed it up. And I didn't back it up far enough, so then we were like, "Okay, so maybe it was further back." And I backed up again, and it's just like all of a sudden cutting the ties on the boat.
yeah, I had to too. I had to as well. I felt like I missed a beat.
Yeah.
Because but again, it goes to show a Victor Timely's sliminess. That again, he may not see himself as slimy. He may not see himself as a scoundrel, but he is. And the way and Miss Minutes' propensity to manipulate and or her fanatical loyalty to Kang slash He Who Remains, um, that she was just fully like, yeah, she called it a partnership. She views herself as an equal to you, as someone who she is teaming up with, and not someone who is serving your indomitable will. And again, I think part of that could lead towards the thing that makes her angry is finding out that she was usurped from like the dynasty of Kang's overarching rule over the
Hmm.
cosmos. Um, but yeah, fantastic episode. Really, really loved it. Excited by the halfway point. Waiting to see when that temporal pincer movement's going to happen. Um, but yeah, um, real quick before we get into Spider-Man talk, we'll do the other Q&A question because it feels like a better time to do it to me. Ray Clausen, $10 patron. Thank you. Said, "Hey guys, it's Ray. I was wondering if you saw the rumor of Matthew Vaughn talking with James Gunn about making a DC movie. any ideas what movie it could be? For those of you at home, Matthew Vaughn is the gentleman behind the Kingsman franchise, to name a few. So, also Kick Ass and some X-Men flicks as well, namely my favorite X-Men movie, Days of Future Past. I have two ideas. Travis, if you have any, I'll let you draw first here.
You may go first.
Okay, so Matthew Vaughn, we know he is fantastic at directing, very frenetic action scenes. We know that there is a certain charm and visual language to his movies that is very distinct, and that he's good at playing around, obviously, with that kind of like heightened stylistic men of mystery, kind of spy vibe, obviously with Kingsman, obviously with X-Men, First Class. One of these I like more than the other, but I think in terms of like good fittedness, they're on equal terms. Green Arrow or Nightwing?
So as you were talking, I was thinking Green Arrow. But look, I've seen Kingsman 1. I love Kingsman 1. It's one of my favorite movies. If I can get any amount of even just Bat Family action, but like Nightwing action,
Yeah,
in the vein
anything
of
like
a
Freebird, yeah.
I Could Die a Happy Man.
Just imagine, like it may like and maybe I'm leaning into it too hard, because I know, like, because of that scene, like people on TikTok and shit love to do like, here's any action scene set to Freebird now. Just imagine, not necessarily Freebird specifically, but like any type of like really driving song where Nightwing is scrimma sticks in hand, is just piecing goons up left and right, with that, like, with Nightwing's brand of Bat Family kind of, like, I don't want to say brutality, but like efficient ass kicking.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. Think about that.
I'm at the gun.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. I know you hate that clip.
I hate it because I've seen them without the cropping.
I've only ever seen it with the TikTok friendly cropping.
Nope. You
The only
aren't friends with
thing,
the right people.
the only thing I cropped out of that was the text on screen. That was like, because like I like the ones on TikTok where it's like man calling out for his like for his brother in his final moments, named Umbaticum. And that is how, like, that meme has been spelled as I've seen it. With I have it spelled like that on the StreamYard, spelled as Ambattakum, Umbaticum.
Yeah, we used to ask people if they had heard of the new manager that they just hired at Walmart. His name's Bussin.
I'm about to explode. Listen, I'm about to come is the easiest one to use, because listen, this is a classic. This is a teen app staple.
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
But it's in the future tense.
Yeah.
It's in the future tense. Like if we're talking about, like, oh, I can't wait for, I can't wait for this movie. I can't wait for this show.
It's gonna be a big nut bust.
One thing, I am actively experiencing something that's like fucking legendary and amazing, and it's already changed my brain chemistry.
I'm at the gun.
Play the full thing, don't worry.
I think that's the worst part, is that it goes for so long.
Yeah, I made a creative decision to get the at the end.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's
That
just
was
the
my
fact that he
that was
keeps
my
going.
Zack Snyder moment. That's my
Yeah.
4 hours. It's
Yeah.
actually in a similar aspect ratio.
I'm at the gun.
You gotta think of black and white now.
I gotta make it. Oh fuck!
Grayscale that shit.
You're grayscale that shit. Yeah. So Travis, let's start. Let's start light. Although I mean, we did kind of say it that we've both been using our default suits.
Yeah.
For the
So
most
the only
part.
time I switched it up was doing side quests. I used the black Raimi suit for a little bit during my side quest spree. And then for Miles, I've been calling him Jazz Miles, but it's
Oh, did you do all the like Harlem noises or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah. I think it's Harlem Sound
Yeah, that's it. Harlem
is
Sounds.
is the yeah. That's one I love that suit. That's so cool. And then so in the first game, right, the Miles Morales 2099 suit where he has
That's
the
my favorite.
hood and
That was my favorite in the Miles game for sure.
same that suit with the blue and purple coloring.
Okay. All right.
Perfection. Perfection.
So I don't know what that one looks like off the top of my head with the blue and purple colorway. And I'm about to bring up something that's going to be a little triggering for us. Does it look like the Nintendo Jason Voorhees thing? Because I know there's a Miguel O'Hara 2099 suit. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No.
So again, back in the Dewback days, where you and I were exposed to so much Friday
Yeah.
the 13th conversation, so many Friday the 13th conversations that none of us had by choice, and that's not shade at all. That's just like no idea what's going on, and we got a very specific niche understanding of the Friday the 13th fandom. That there was this version, it was like a Nintendo game, and that because like you couldn't really do the color black because of shading things and like old school comics, that there was there was this like very popular colorway people would do for Jason masks and Jason cosplays.
Oh.
To kind of get like a facsimile of like the dark shading, he ended up like electric blue and like royal purple.
Yes. Okay, now I remember what you're talking about. And yeah, it is kind of that color scheme, only I like it, even in spite of that. Lexi referred to it as Wildberry Pop-Tart colors.
Wildberry Pop-Tart Miles goes fucking crazy.
Specifically the Miguel O'Hara suit was Wildberry Pop-Tart. But yeah, I think that because the colors aren't as present on that suit, like it's still mostly black.
Yeah.
So it is that is what I used, that and the Harlem Sounds as my like side quest suits. But then as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm going back to the main story, I switch them both back to
Their default.
whatever their correct default suit at the time was.
Yeah. Well, I like to, I have fun, because I have my own, like, story wise, this is what I think should be happening and ideas of things. Like, anytime I replay Miles Morales, I don't like the suit Miles starts out in. I don't think it works for him as a character. And the
Mhm.
fact that he does have a homemade suit available to you in the game, where he's got like the sweats on and the ski mask.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to do a new game plus of Miles Morales, I will equip that suit, copy that save file, so that Miles does that first mission where you like do the Rhino prisoner transfer thing, in that outfit, because I think it works better for the story.
Yeah.
And I like Miles's. I can go either way on this. For my own purposes, I like Miles's inherited, or the suit that is bequeathed to him from Peter, to be like classic black and red Miles Morales. So you start the game in that after that first mission. And then after that, when he's like, oh, well, I need to do my own thing. Like I need to reinvent myself. I then switch him to the tracksuit. And then
Okay.
by the time I get to the end of the game, as kind of my own like anti-Ox suit, in my mind, I'm like, well, he's been around so much underground tech, he could have theoretically fashioned himself like
Yeah.
a suit
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
accommodate for like the underground technology. So then I put him in programmable matter for the end of the game. Also, this is a stupid request, but it's because my undiagnosed ADHD just I want things to look a certain way. You do it in photo mode in Miles in the Spider-Man game from 2018 and the remaster. You can do it in this one. You can change the suits in photo mode. So if
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh, this is a great shot," and it would look even better with Bombastic Bagman or the Iron Spider or whatever the fuck, I should switch to this one in the photo mode. And that's really it's a really cool option, and I love it. You should have that option in cinematics. You should be able. I like this is one of my like. It's not a complaint so much as it's like a why isn't this a thing? You should be able to pause the game and change your suit for the cinematic.
I guess. I
Because the
mean,
only
so
issue
my
I have with like, oh, I think it would make sense if Miles had the programmable matter suit for his final battle with the Tinkerer. I then do not want his conversation with Peter when he gets back from Symkaria to still be in the programmable matter suit. I want to switch him to the tracksuit. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I guess the issue with that is like because of the way it loads the cutscenes, it's like it's too difficult because they'd have to reload the cutscene, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I understand, but hell, I wouldn't even mind if you can like pause it and be like, okay, switch my suit, and it's like, okay, this will restart the cutscene.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, because at that point, you as the player are making a conscious decision that you
Yeah.
would rather like disrupt the flow of this moment to get the outfit you like.
Uh huh.
You know, like, and I'm happy to make that trade.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I don't want to get too into story stuff, but like, I had a moment where it occurred to me because I like Miles wearing the advanced tech suit as his upgraded suit for the second game because it's a little bit more armory, but not by much. You know, yeah, like it very and like again for me, and this kind of occurred to me because I equipped it after I finished the Prowler stashes.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, well, it would kind of make sense if Miles like found all this Prowler tech and kind of like repurposed some of it, and kind of bolstered his suit. And because the suit does look kind of Prowlery in its like segmenting, um, I like the idea that like Miles like refurbished some old Prowler tech, and just kind of patted himself out. And Uncle Aaron gives him like a gadget at the end of that side quest. So it's not like Miles is beyond you know, kind of like redeeming his uncle's legacy by using it in his equipment. Um,
I definitely
so
thought it was going to give you an entire new suit when I finished it.
like
Uh,
a Purple Rain Mark II.
yeah, and because before I finished that side quest, I got the Purple Rain suit. I was like, oh, that's what they have this one in. If they're giving you another Prowler suit, that's
Yeah,
odd. And then I finished the side quest. He gives me the gadget, and I was like, did I just make that up in my head? I must have.
yeah,
Um, I think Aaron says something along the lines of like maybe you can repurpose some of that tech for your suit. Like he says that, and so my brain went, "There's a suit for this side quest,"
yeah,
and then never actually stopped to look.
yeah. I also think Miles shoots the idea down, but again, he does take that gadget from Aaron.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm not going to get into story spoiler stuff. Um, but there's a level towards the end um, that, in my mind, Miles is exposed at close proximity to something that it occurred to me, oh, this would be a cool like wouldn't it be cool if like this canonically made his costume look like the tracksuit with that big white part on it.
Mm. I think I
Um
know what you're talking about.
yeah, with the journey in the mind, to put it
Yeah.
that way, and the subsequent moment there, that was like, oh, that would be cool if you had the tracksuit, and then I equipped that thinking it would be cool, and then in the next scene, I don't think this is much of a spoiler. Miles also gets a cool end game suit, which Travis and I were talking about. I think it is easily my new favorite Miles Morales suit, bar none. I
Yeah.
I it's I don't think
It's
it's
perfect. No
close.
notes. It's perfect.
And I don't know what it is. And again, I'm not gonna get specific here. But like I don't think it's a spoiler to say that both Peter and Miles get like an end game suit.
Mhm.
It happened in the first game. It stands to reason. I I don't know who they are talking about, but I have seen so much buzz whenever the suits leaked and then there were story leaks happening at the same time. I didn't see any of the story leaks, thankfully. But I saw so many people talking about how that suit at the end of the game is so fucking ugly. And I don't know which one they're talking about. And either way, they're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like, we can make fun of Insomniac for some goofy ass suit designs all day long. I don't think any of them are that egregious, really. I think the only ones that I truly think are like horrendous and hard to fucking look at are like the Velocity suit from the first game. But none of those suits look bad. Like I don't think I
My
like.
my only complaint with the suits on the whole is that they reuse too many of Miles, which I get he has less material to work with, so you don't get to play as much fun as you do with Peter. But then they just
Yeah,
put all the movie suits in for Peter. And
yeah,
like it'd be one thing if we hadn't gotten them all in the last game, but we got them all in the last game. Granted as, add-ons, but still. And on top of that, they don't have color swatches.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's my
I
it,
saw some people complaining that like it takes up multiple suit slots to have the MCU Spider-Man suit
yeah.
when
There's
you could
4
very
spots.
feasibly, where you
Just
could
make them the
very feasibly,
colors.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, you can make an argument that MCU Iron Spider, like with like the golden or not the golden, but like the metallic sheen, could like warrant its own thing, and that it
Oh
does
yeah, I didn't
that.
even think of
That
that one. It's 5 spots then.
Yeah, but like you could totally just have like the Stark suit, and then you open up the colorways, and it's like Stark suit, upgrade suit, inside out suit, integrated suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
just feel like that would be way more simple.
and like
I don't think you
or
can
like even the
justify
Raimi
that.
suit. The Raimi suit could just have the black Raimi suit as a color swatch.
Yeah, I agree with
And
you.
then
I agree with you. The TASM suits, those suit that wildly different designs.
yeah,
I think that
and
warrants two different tiles.
yeah, but then they should still have their own colors. That's what I'm saying. Like they could have done so much more with these movie
I
suits,
do
and they
find it curious why
didn't.
the movie suits didn't have colorways. I do think it's interesting,
It's got to be like some
like a
kind of weird
licensing
copyright thing.
thing.
Yeah, licensing thing. That's the only thing I can think of because otherwise, there's no reason why we can't be playing as like an inverted, uh, across the Spider Verse Miles, or like a black suit TASM suit,
Yeah. I
right?
was surprised they didn't do that. I was really surprised.
Or a
Um,
black suit,
Tom,
like a black suit MCU suit. Yeah. Also, I just want to say really quick, I have very much not agreed with the new Peter face looks too much like Tom Holland. I don't think he looks like Tom Holland at all. I will say, and this is again isn't really
the remaster, I think you can make a case for it.
in
It's
this one,
changed slightly in two. I don't think so.
but I will say in this isn't again much of a spoiler. There are moments where you flash back to high school Peter. Flashback Peter looks and sounds like Tom Holland.
I vehemently disagree with you. I don't. I
Really?
think you. This is the episode where we don't stop talking about problematic actors. You know what Spider-Man he reminded me more of than anybody?
Oh, okay, yeah. I look wise, I see
That
it.
was Drake Bell Spider-Man.
Look wise, I see it. I think Yuri's performance
Because he
as
has the
young
ultimate
Peter.
hair. He has the ultimate
Yeah,
hair, and then like his voice, he sounded like Drake Bell. I
I think
never
he sounded like
realized how much
Tom.
Yuri's upper register sounded like Drake Bell until that
I
moment.
think I think his inflections are heavily Tom. Like the way he says line, even like if the pitch isn't quite right,
That he gets kind of squeaky at the end.
he gets kind of squeaky like, oh, thanks, Mr. Stark. Right? Like that kind of
The
delivery is how he's
unsureness,
delivering.
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I just attribute that so much to Tom's Peter. But like when I was doing the first flashback, I was like, oh my God, okay, this is Tom Holland. I also have there's a part of me that has a little bit of conspiracy brain about when they chose to make the switch for the face back, like when they remastered the first Spider-Man, that they were too afraid because I think Harry looks like old Peter. Not enough for it to be like a 1-to-1, but he does look very similar to like modeled after Yuri Lowenthal Peter. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they started making Spider-Man 2 and went, these faces look too similar. People are going to get confused. We got to make a switch.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I love that theory.
Like, I'm not saying that they're like identical, look 1-to-1, but as Harry started appearing more in the story, I was like, man, he looks a lot like Yuri Lowenthal.
You look like the OG face.
Yeah.
Speaking of Yuri, first of all, phenomenal performance.
Dude, the voice acting in this game, off the charts.
This is what symbiote Peter Parker is supposed to sound like. Like that kind of that, like it sounds so over the fucking top and kind of corny, but that's exactly how he should sound.
And like,
That like, I'm gonna give him a hug, he'll never forget. Like, oh my fucking god. I'm
And
not
this
gonna
is
play
like-
it again, but
and like I think the reason it works so well is that it feels involuntary.
yeah.
Where like in Spider-Man 3, the movie, there's this big feeling of Peter at some point makes an active choice to be a bad boy, right?
Yeah.
And so when he starts skewing into cringe, bad boydness, it feels like cringe because like now he's making an active choice to do a thing versus like the
With the hair
sequence,
and the guy liner and the like the shit
Yeah.
with the candy in Jameson's office. Yeah.
the sequence of how it happens in the game is so natural and like he's not thinking about it and it just happens. And as a result of that, like he like during the fight as he's getting more aggressive, he doesn't notice what he's doing with his voice,
Yeah.
right? Like and it does work a lot for me in that respect. Because like the first time we heard the voice in the gameplay reveal, I was like, I don't know about this, but I did enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, no, I was sold early on. I was not as apprehensive as you. But I get what you're getting at. I will say, like, I do love again, I don't consider this a spoiler because if you've ever experienced any like black suit Spider-Man story, you know how this works. I like that early on into his time with the black suit, they're like he's oscillating between like edgelord Peter and Peter, you know? Like there's
Yeah, they
room
make
like there's room for both. There's room for him being very aggressive and short with the people he's with. And then he's also like, I'm gonna chase the giant flying murder birds. Or you know, like the moment they have their like alley-oop moment. The
Yeah.
alley-oop, and again, this is in the gameplay like the gameplay trailer when we first saw the symbiote. Which by the way, I was so happy. I unlocked the like I got you pinned against the wall, so I'm just gonna fucking tap dance on your rib cage attack just in time for that level, and I did it in the exact spot, and I felt so happy with myself.
That was one of the first
Canon.
things I got to was like that thing on the tree. I did all of the combined tree first before I started into their personal trees.
So for me, my logic was I gave a lot of love to the shared tree first because it's the most utility.
Yeah,
I then would also focus on Peter. I would focus on the symbiote skill tree
that's what I
because
did too.
to my mind, the way I looked at it was again, I know how these stories typically work. I'm not gonna have access to this stuff for forever. So I want him to be souped the fuck up while I have the symbiote. And, I also kind of knew I had a feeling going in like Craven's going to give me a run for my money. And I want to be I want to be able to just rain fucking hell on him.
Yeah,
And
there's
what were you going to
two things. One, Craven's a bitch.
say? All my homies hate Craven.
All my homies hate Craven. Listen, you can't call yourself like the ultimate hunter and say you want to hunt worthy of you or whatever, and then cheat every fight. I'm sorry, man. You can't be like I'm a world class hunter. Also, I'm gonna pull out a high powered sniper rifle
Yeah.
literally out of my ass cheeks right now because I can't
I'm
catch
going to
those.
pull out a sniper rifle with a round so obnoxiously big I can take out an oak tree.
Yeah, but I'm a world class hunter. I'm gonna
Jeez,
set
I
up this
wonder
whole.
why. Maybe all of your prey gets liquefied after one fucking shot.
Yeah, I almost just gave away like the entire Craven fight. I won't do that, but like, there's something about the fight that just like
Yeah,
I
I know what
didn't
you mean.
like.
Well, here's the
Yeah,
thing,
and
and what I was about to say ties in with that fantastically. You know, not to do the thing of it really makes you feel like Spider-Man. Um, but like as somebody who loves an anti-hero Spider-Man, because it's wrong, you know, like it's
yeah,
I love that inversion, like it's what I always say about like evil Superman and Injustice, like you're painting a picture of like it is like a photo negative of what Spider-Man is supposed to be. And because
yeah,
of that, it almost it makes you understand what makes Peter special better when you see him at his worst. Be it in the symbiote, be it in a story like Superior Spider-Man, that you see him in a light that is like, oh, this is so like determinatively fucking wrong.
yeah.
It feels gross. Richard is screaming so loud outside my door. I don't know if it's audible.
It is a little bit. I'm
Sorry.
not gonna lie. Lexi's two youngest cats really don't meow ever. More so, they don't really know how to meow. It's kind
Yeah.
of funny. So I forget cats meow now.
That's kind of the case with Richard, only his purr doesn't work. So he just kind of goes, hmm.
Yeah, Pepper, the one of the younger cats, it purrs so loud that when she sits on Lexi's bed, it literally vibrates the whole bed.
Yeah, I knew the purr boxes were quite loud.
Yeah,
But
and then
no,
they can't
that,
meow.
but yeah, it just got Um, all of that said, like I loved the black suit. I like the combat, like it. I'm never gonna beat the edgelord allegations. To
Never.
the ever to the people who love to have documented footage of me saying the edgiest shit you've ever heard. Buckle up. Um, I felt this euphoric sense of like destruction using the black suit abilities, and when you pop that rage meter, like because here's the thing I love, because like with me in most games, when it comes to combat, I take a more aggressive stance. I like to push the attack. I like to, I like to counter fight. It's one of the reasons why I like Fallen Order so much, or the Star Wars Jedi franchise as a whole, I should say. Where like I love that. I love the lightsaber combat because the moment you parry something, you're ready for that counter attack. And not this isn't the Versus series $5 tier. But like it's my favorite lightsaber fighting style, Gem So, where it's like the strength based physical offensive. You're never really blocking so much as you're parrying and doing counter attacks. To quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, the most effective defense is sometimes a swift and decisive offense, which is funny because it's the polar opposite of his fighting style. But that's not what we're talking about today. So getting to use the symbiote in combat, and especially getting to just cut the fuck loose and not have to worry about protecting yourself. When you let that rage meter off, you're invincible for as long as that fucker goes. So like there came a point where like I'd let that fly and I'm just like I'm getting the screen pop up of this is how you block these attacks. I'm like, fuck you. I'm not blocking a motherfucking thing. I am here to wreak havoc. There is a word that starts with C that I am avoiding like a motherfucker right now. But it's just I love it. I love it. I've never felt more powerful in a video game ever. I have never taken this much sinister glee in the amount of ass whoop I can dole out at a clip with the black suit.
I will say, on a combat note, I don't like the new parrying thing they have in there.
That was my next point, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it.
I still, again, 25 hours into this game, I still am I'm better now. I'm still very rough with the timing on that parry. I wouldn't dislike it so much if brutes hadn't been changed to where you basically have to parry them to deal damage.
Yeah.
Because you can't really web them up anymore.
And the hunters with like the twin swords.
Yeah.
They're gnarly. They are the twin gnarly. Swords,
I mean, they have the attack you have to parry. But in general, like you can still deal with them the way you deal with any weaponed opponent, which is fine. And then like I think it is just the brutes, because brutes are like a standard enemy type that have been fundamentally changed by this, and everything else is like either not changed enough that it bothers me, or is a brand new enemy. Like there's the shield bearers that cancel your abilities, right? Really cool standalone fight. Really interesting take on how to do combat. And like it tested me in a very fun way, because that's how I got better at the parries, was that fight. But my brain is so used to like, all right, web up the brute, hit him a couple times while they're down, hit everybody else, web up the brute, hit him a couple times, that like not being able to do that attack pattern now messes with my brain.
Yeah.
And I can do any of the must be parried attacks, I can parry. Any regular attack, I cannot figure out the timing. Like it just does not compute in my brain.
So I at first had mixed feelings about the parry system. Because for me, and this is another thing that's like it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed my take on the combat as a whole. Again, I have so much to say about the symbiote stuff as a whole. I'm still making up my mind, because when I pick up a Spider-Man game, again, my mentality going into a game focused on lightsaber combat is I'm going to blitz you. I'm going to do everything in my power to counter you. I never want to be on the defense in like the Jedi games, for example. Again, it's one of the reasons why I love that franchise so much, is because I have never seen two people who play the same way. And again, like in terms of like the lightsaber martial arts, I think it's fascinating that like you could put me next to Connor, next to you, next to Lexi, whatever, and like all of us kind of like end up identifying with one of the 7 forms and the way that we fight, whether it's conscious or not. Like like it's varied. Um, when I pick up a Spider-Man game, I still have that impulse of I want to be on the offensive. And the way I do that is by avoiding being on the ground as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I
found
I am
myself in the air a lot
confident.
more in this game.
Well, here's the thing. I am confident that my most used attack in 2018 and Miles Morales was the swing kick. I am confident that outside of like power-based attacks, like for example, in 2018, do you know what my go-to my suit power was? Web Blossom. It's one of the first ones you unlock, and motherfucker, if it is not incredibly efficient to drop that many enemies in one go, or and rack up that much focus, and what's one of the suit mods I have equipped? The one that lets you do multiple finishers off of one focus bar. Like my build was geared towards overwhelming offense. And when I encounter, and what one of my favorite upgrades on the swing kick is that people who have like melee weapons, like like demons who had the swords, or sable agents with stun batons, or like some random thug with a fucking tire iron or whatever, was that I did not have to get on the ground, do a launcher, get in the air, and knock them away, and then have to chase after them to keep up the offensive. I would just swing kick, web, 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 keep going, swing kick, web, 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 gadget, gadget, gadget. Like I cannot tell you the amount of damage I took in this game because I kept trying to swing kick the swords.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, that change really threw me off. And the other way it threw me off is, again, I use the dodge under all the time.
Same.
Because to my mind, that is the closest I ever came in the previous Spider-Man games to being able to do a counterattack. That was because I can't at the time parry, or just like fully evade an attack while I'm also attacking. It was that like, okay, dodge, and now I'm behind you and I'm going to do more damage this way. The parry system just blew my fucking mind. I did not know how to compute, because to me, the way that I've always understood how Spider-Man fights, and the way that then colors how my mind processes how to play these games, Spider-Man can't fight like Anakin Skywalker. I'm not supposed to be able to park and bark and knock you back and shit whip you across the room. That's not how that works with him. Now, as the game goes on, I think that it works way better with the symbiote. I think that I think that within the logic of the game, Peter just like going with the symbiote and knocking somebody back, that made more sense to me there.
Yes, and that might have been part of the reason I felt the same way, was that like it doesn't make sense doing it with Peter, and then doing it with Miles helped me adjust a little bit. But like it was the couple of boss fights where like you have to use it essentially. Like you don't have to, I guess. I'm sure you could go without doing it. But the fights built around you being able to use it, that I was like, okay, I kind of have a feel for this now, that at least I can use it when it is necessary.
Yeah. Oh, and it became one of my most utilized abilities by the end of the game, symbiote or not. Like I very much became reliant on the parry system.
I will say,
I weirdly found myself dodging way less. Not weirdly, obviously, but like as a result of that, weird in the context of a Spider-Man game where I should be dodging incoming attacks. I found myself dodging less. And it felt weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like again, I'm not saying it's bad or whatever. It just fundamentally kind of messes with my perception of how Spider-Man brawls.
Yeah. I definitely in the first game I was very much an on the ground ducking and weaving around everybody. Barely using any gadgets, maybe some webs and that's it. And in this game I'm in the air 90% of the time. Not even swing kicking. Just like pop somebody up, hit them around, get them close to a wall, web them to a wall, come back down, do the wall running kick on somebody to knock them out, hit somebody else into the air. Because like getting in the air also dodges most of the must be parried attacks. Because if
Yeah.
you're in the air, they don't hit you. So I'm like, okay, this kills two birds with one stone. And then also something I think on the whole, this game does is they take the less is more approach to a lot of stuff from the first game. Like we don't have a weapon wheel anymore. We have 4 gadgets for combat. And I'll be honest, I use gadgets at least 3 times as much in this game compared to the last game. And I know some people would complain that it's a step backwards. I think, for me personally, I would not be using them if it was still on a weapon wheel. Having them on quick commands. Now, granted, if we had the weapon wheel and you could map them to quick commands, whole different thing. And I don't remember if you could do that in the first game. I don't remember being able to do that in the first game.
I think you can, but it's not like something they're like, hey, and then you can do this and it'll make it easier. And like, so I hear what you're saying as an avid gadget user. I was not super thrilled with the way the gadgets were scaled back. And Marcus from Cosmonaut Variety Hour tweeted about how like a lot of the gadgets don't feel very Spider-Man.
That's fair.
And that's an issue I have as well. I tonally, I don't think a lot of them work. For me, and here's the other thing. And again, this is a definitive negative for me. Stealth was fucking so much harder for me. I felt
really?
I felt like I was 12 playing Arkham Asylum again. Just
So
being dog shit at stealth combat and not knowing what the fuck I'm doing and how I'm supposed to lure these guys away. Because for me, my stealth combat was based around trip mines. My whole thing was that I would like kind of scan the room, figure out like how enemies are moving around, and just start setting trip mines, especially for the ones that I knew were partnered with people. Or I'd hit a trip mine and wanted to be like, oh my God, what happened? And then while he's safe to attack now, boom, you're webbed to the roof. Boom, you're on the wall. Boom, I just flattened you out. Stealth. And again, maybe this is a flaw of my fighting style in Spider-Man with the stealth stuff. I found myself struggling with stealth. Because I just couldn't get enemies to separate from each other. I just couldn't get. I would web as many crates and fucking barrels as I could. These motherfuckers would not leave each other's side.
At what point did you unlock the double takedown? The double stealth takedown?
Like with a partner?
No, I mean like at the very bottom of the combined tree, there is you can stealth take down 2 people from a perch.
Hey, Travis, you want to know how many abilities I have left to unlock on that tree?
1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
no wonder I'm
like,
having such a fucking hard time.
So between being able to like the web lines, oh my God, the greatest. I had so much fun. Every hunter base, because like
Papa loves me a web line. Papa loves me a web line.
And I've done every hunter base without being seen. Straight up. Like, I did not get detected a single time for all of the main bases, like the big building bases. And the whole
not be me.
By the end of it, I have literally, it looks like a real spider's web lined out in the ceiling from me just walking around and there's bodies all over it.
I know. I keep seeing all these people on Twitter with just these clotheslines of thugs and goons and shit.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm like,
And
yeah,
that's-
because I'm struggling because I am using the web line a good bit, mostly to like get around the room. Like what I typically do is I'll just kind of like divide the room in two and then just start like setting up like I'll kind of do what you do, but like at the very beginning.
Yeah, I
And
do
set
them
that
as I
shit up
need
to
them.
give me like like more traversal options.
Yeah. That's the other thing. I started remembering Miles can turn invisible, which I did not use at all in the Miles Morales
Yeah.
standalone game. That like doing stealth as Miles, being a like basically having a mulligan for I come
Hit you
down
trigger
on
finger.
somebody. Yeah, like I come down on somebody who's marked as safe, but as soon as I hit them, someone else turned around and like the meter starts to go up and I'm like, oh shit, invisible. Yeah, I had a very now granted at
See
the very
again, that's
beginning.
so fascinating. I used Miles' invisibility infinitely more in his game.
I'm not saying I used it a lot in this one. I used it
Yeah.
mostly by accident as I'm hitting buttons and my finger slips and I hit it by accident. But yeah, I loved the stealth in this game a lot. After I was enjoying it after getting the double takedown where you can do two people at once. And the other thing about the double takedown is because you have to like R3 scan to see if they're safe, right?
Yeah.
With the double takedown, the way it indicates to you that you can do a double takedown also indicates if it's safe or not. So you don't have to scan them.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so that's convenient as hell. And like just, web line the fact that the web lines don't have to be parallel, I like parallel with the floor, they can be at an angle as well.
Yeah.
So nice. Yeah, once I got into the stealth a little more and and the fact that like the enemy bases in this game, because that was a problem I had with the first game, was like when you went into bases and you could stealth them, you would stealth them to a point, and then at the end of the
And then
stealthing,
wave 2 starts and it's just a fucking brawl.
yeah, and it's like, so what was the point of me doing a stealth thing here? Versus in this game, if you stealth the base, reinforcements don't show up. You did it. Congratulations. Collect your prize of not much coming out of the end of the hunter bases, but we take what we can get.
Yeah. No, that is interesting. I think I'm ready to get that upgrade. So I'm gonna do that and tackle the 100 bases now.
Yeah, they were so fun. I had a lot of fun with those.
I want to talk about one specific series of side quests.
Okay.
This may dominate the back chunk of our conversation.
Okay.
So those of you who are fully spoiler averse, turn back now. Those of you who are not worried about that,
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. Actually, now that you're saying this, I might know what you're talking about.
turn back now. The flame. First of all, I'm going to full screen myself real quick.
While you do that, I'm gonna go pee.
Go pee. Go piss, girl. Insomniac. My friends. I want to thank you for combining two of my favorite things that I didn't know I needed in one package. Doomsday Cults and Spider-Man. Namely, a Spider-Man mission that features the thing that excites me the most every time about the City That Never Sleeps DLC for the first game. The reveal at the end that Yuri Watanabe is going to become Wraith. It gave me every ounce of permission I needed to swap from the costume that the game wanted me to wear for story purposes and suit up as Otto Octavius. And wear the Superior Spider-Man suit because Yuri and Otto interact a good bit in that story. I loved everything going on. And I will say, for a good chunk of the game, because like a lot of the side quests I was doing, as I said, I did like a healthy mix of side stuff and story stuff. A lot of that side stuff was collectible based. I was hunting down spider bots. I was doing the prowler caches. I was, going on after the Sandman crystals. I was doing a lot of those. And I did a considerable amount of crime stoppage and prowler stuff, obviously the prowler stuff, as Miles. So I just kept running into the flame cultists, and I was like, I wonder what their deal is. And it did not. So when I first see like the fire symbol on the map show up, and like the first call I get is from a firefighter being like, "Hey, we need a hand. Can you help with evac?" I did not decide to do that mission until I was goofing around on a Discord call with the usual suspects I'm talking to who I know on the internet. And I was like, it's going to be some like civilian rescue mission. Nothing crazy is going to happen. I can stand to play this while I'm doing other things or listening to other things or in the middle of a conversation. What I did not expect was for the cultists. I mean, I wasn't surprised, I'm like, oh, fire makes sense, because I truly thought that it was going to be a series of side missions having to do with helping the fire department, and that would
I did
tie
as well.
in, and that would tie in with like the fire obsessed cult. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, what villain could this be? Is it Molten Man? Is it, and I'm thinking about like all like the pyrokinetic Marvel villains. And fucking Yuri Watanabe shows up, and I'm like, oh, Wraith! Immediately, Superior Spider-Man suit. Immediately, I'm like, okay, I'm playing as Otto now. And then you go to that first base, and you hear Yuri Lowenthal chewing the scenery, and you see the video message of the flame. And I'm going to call him that because I'm still going to give people a little bit of time to cut and run. And I was like, I know who this fucking is. Did you figure it out?
No, not till so.
Okay, leave now. Leave now if you don't want to know anything about the flame missions. Travis, speak freely.
So yeah, definitely. So I did the opposite. The mission showed up, and I was like, "Oh, I can go do this right now. I want to start this, whatever." Because I also thought it was going to be like helping the firemen. So that mission happens, and I'm like, "Oh, this was neat. This is a neat side quest." And I did the next one, and he showed up, and because they say his name, and because it wasn't,
Cletus
I know you told me to
Cassidy.
speak freely. Yeah, they don't say Cletus Cassidy. And so I wasn't immediately triggered into thinking, oh.
Do they
And
say his name, or do they just only refer to him as the Flame? Because I remember getting frustrated with Yuri because she keeps only calling him the Flame.
No, she does say his name at least, because like Peter's like, that guy knows you, and she was like, yeah, his name is this. He did this before,
or whatever
blah,
his
blah.
last alias was. Because
Yeah, and then at the very end, she's like, I'll check some of his old aliases, whatever, Cletus Cassidy. And that's when I was like, I mean, like at that point, obviously I knew because the last cutscene didn't happen, but because at first it was like he picks up the canister, and because of the way the scene is, I couldn't
is
tell.
it turning red or is it just the flame?
Well, no, the color didn't look right. I was like, My color looks kind of off though. Oh my god, it's red. Oh my god, this is Cletus Cassidy. Right? So yeah, that we're gonna have some fun DLC coming up.
Man, I hope so.
When they didn't give me another mission marker after that, I was like,
Yeah. Well, I got the new suit
well,
available thing, and I was like, that's it.
yeah,
I was like, I want to fight him.
yeah. There's no way that's not going to be the DLC. Also, I thought it was really cool that right after that, Yuri started showing up in the street to fight with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like
Once I
did
did the flame,
last.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I beat the flame missions, and then I just like full steam ahead through story. Because like
So
normally to harvest XP, like when I first played the game, and this is before like I was like I want to get a review out, and I'm worried about spoilers. Because at the time, like I was not super on superhero Twitter, or superhero TikTok because that wasn't even a thing yet. So I didn't really have any worries about stumbling into story spoilers. This time around, I was like, I need to get fucking through this. Um, so I didn't stop to because before, like I said, it was an XP harvest for me. You know, where every time a crime came up, I came to stop it. And I did that a lot towards the beginning of the game because again, I was like, I just need to know I have the superior Spider-Man suit. I just need to know I have it. I just need to know that I unlocked it and that I crafted it and all of these things and all the colorways. Um, I just need to know I did that. As the story went on, I became less and less concerned with like I need to stop every single crime. And because I was doing so many of like the Sandman memories and stuff like that, between that and story, I was just rapid firing, leveling up anyway. Um, I didn't know that. It's really fucking cool that Yuri comes
yeah.
through to help you.
So my process was at first I wasn't doing like I was doing some of them as I found them, but at a point, and I can't talk too much about my reasoning without giving away some stuff. Um, but at a point I stopped doing side quests because I didn't feel comfortable doing them as Peter. Because like canonically, I'm like, it does not make sense for Peter to be helping the community right now, so I'm gonna stop doing that. And
Yeah.
then the final flame mission becomes available. And I did it as you know when it comes up in the well, I don't know if you know when it comes up in the story.
I do. Yeah. Well, once I could do it, I did it immediately. Because A, it was more time to play as Otto, and B, obviously, anybody who's even vaguely aware of me knows the story mission or the side story that has to do with the Doomsday cult.
Yeah.
I'm
But like
gonna drop everything to do that.
but I had been doing the flame missions as they like became available to me. So like the moment the last one that I didn't know was the last one, but the moment the last one became available was also the moment I started feeling comfortable doing side quests again, if you take my meaning. So I did that like right away. And so
Yeah.
because I did that right away, the final group of enemy combatants that infest the city were around, so I was fighting them. And as I'm fighting them, I notice someone else pops in, and I'm like, "That's not Miles. What the hell?" And I realized it's Yuri. And then I started
Great.
playing as
Yeah.
Miles to do all of Miles' stuff, and I still started fighting with Yuri.
That's sick. I like that a lot.
So yeah, it is really cool.
Well, again, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to be very interested in how they do a DLC story if Carnage is going to be our villain. If he's going to be our Hammerhead.
Yeah.
With the again, I'm not going to say anything specific. It'll be as vague as possible with what I'm about to say. With how the story ends, I'm very interested in how they do it with how the game is built.
Okay. I mean, like, yeah, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, that's
I
also why I'm being
really
vague. I know you probably like I don't you're kind of finicky with what you want, what you don't mind being spoiled for or not, but and
at
I'm not
this
gonna
point, if we were like if wasn't as close as I am, I
Yeah,
probably
that's the
wouldn't
other
care.
reason. You're
I'm like, I
an
am
hour away
there.
from beating the game. You're an hour
I'm
away
gonna
from
click
credits.
leave recording session when we're done and beat the game before I go to bed because I'm like, I'm too close. It's gonna knot me
Yeah.
all day tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what's happening with me. That's why I stayed up way later than I should have, knowing what time I worked today. But yeah, no, I do. I really thought that subplot was incredible. Again, Spider-Man fighting the Doomsday Cult, and dude, I was talking to Michael McCoy from All Remaining Systems, the lovely DM of Ionized Bastards, about the Flame, and we were like, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Cletus Cassidy is a huckster who keeps starting doomsday cults under different aliases and becomes like a Jim Jones type. How is that not just his fucking thing already? Like, Carnage is in many ways, I know a lot of people like compare, because people love to compare Spider-Man and Batman. I know that to many people, Green Goblin is Spider-Man's Joker because he's the most iconic villain. He has done the most to personally fuck up Peter's life. He is this malignant force of nature that is like mostly kind of guided past a certain point. Like the Green Goblin exists to fuck up Spider-Man's life and is hell bent on getting revenge on Spider-Man in a similar way that the Joker has personally done the most to fuck up Batman's life and has has this vendetta and obsession with Batman and trying to kind of turn him to the dark side, especially if it costs him his own life. So I understand the similarities there. For me, I've always seen Carnage as the Joker in that analogy. Like, and it's more to do with the characterization than the relationship, because to me, the way I've always kind of thought of Carnage is as, like, again, you have that like malignant force of nature element, but he also just like is a wanton killer. He does not have an ideology. He does not have like like any code, any morals, any type of higher minded idea than I want to create chaos. And the Joker has become like this super terrorist in the comics, and I think that works for him for the most part. The fact that Cletus Cassidy has access to so much power, he feels one note as a villain. I think it's why a lot of people write Carnage off as, you're here to look cool and be edgy and be somebody we are very okay watching get curb stomped. The angle of giving Cletus this level of god complex and narcissism, and again making him like a Jim Jones type, that's genius. Like, we have not even seen Cletus become Carnage, and this is already my favorite version of the character. And not only that, he did a Woody Harrelson and he did it better.
There's gonna be carnage.
That fucking final monologue, if you hadn't figured it out already, with like, and I will usher in an era of justice, judgment, and carnage. Oh my god! Fucking Yuri in the booth. Just like, we need the voice actor version of like the quill with fire coming out of it. Because that shit was so fucking good. So good. So good. Favorite, like, I hit a point with the Flame that, like, a part of me almost wanted to fundamentally restructure the plot of this game. And again, I'm not getting into specifics on that. Unless people ask, and then we can talk about it when we do our spoiler review. I wanted to change the fundament of how the story is structured just to get to the point of seeing carnage. And that's all I'll say on that. And that's not even much of a that was so vague. I even confused myself past a certain point. But yeah, no, on the whole, I do love this game. One other just like mildly negative note, and again, like this is one of those instances where like we're talking about negatives in from a context of like we would be here twice the length of this show talking non-story spoilers about why we love this game.
If I mean, like once we start talking about like the writing and the story of this game, we'll be here for like 4 hours just
Yeah,
filleting nonstop.
I
It's gonna
will
be
say. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. You excited me.
This is one of my favoritely written superhero stories, like
Yeah,
ever. It's
yeah.
and like I haven't finished it yet. I'm one step away, but like at every beat, it's just been it so fundamentally understands the story it's trying to tell.
Yes, that is a perfect way to put it. And the symbiote is tricky. The
The
symbiote
symbiote is tricky, and
is a tricky story device.
my issue with a symbiote styled story, the SSS, um, and like not necessarily like literally a symbiote, but like the issue you have with a character is suddenly not themselves and being an asshole. This story solves so well, and like just on the back of all of these characters are feel like real people and are emotionally mature enough to like
Mhm.
we don't have to spend an amount of time with them being emotional dipshits. Not
Yeah,
emotional in the like in their feelings, but like emotionally inept,
yeah.
right? So
Like
like then
in terms of emotional intelligence. Yeah,
right. So then we get to actually spend time with the dialogue, actually telling a story and actually having these characters emote in a real way and actually having them communicate in a way that I can connect to, where I'm not spending the whole time going, "Oh, shut the fuck up," you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I only had one moment where I felt like the story was being emotionally disingenuous.
I'm curious what that is, but we'll talk about that when you hit stop.
Yeah.
Unless it's at the end, and I don't know
No,
it
no,
yet.
no, 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 no,
Okay.
no.
I'm curious what that is.
You're well past it. Um,
I have a feeling I might know, but I'm curious.
um, but yeah, no. The tricky thing with symbiote stories is that I'm going to use the underrated gem Web of Shadows as an example. That game, and I think the worst conceptions of like stories involving uh, characters falling victim to the symbiote, um, it puts an overemphasis on the idea of Peter Parker becoming drunk with power and not understanding Peter's relationship and like almost like the XY axis of power and responsibility and how that manifests for Peter Parker. And a lot of the time, the symbiote is characterized as it makes Peter bad. And that's the end of the conversation. And and that's a fan thing. It's something that like we use symbiote Spider-Man as like a shorthand for a darker Spider-Man, and don't really get at the best way to use it as a narrative device. And the way that the symbiote does bring out the worst part of people, I think is expertly handled.
Yeah.
Everything that it represents throughout the story. Just like I don't, again, I don't like statements about like you'll never be able to do better than this, because I think it's incredibly reductive. If the MCU Spider-Man stories are about to enter in a phase of Peter's life where the black suit may be on the table, we know that the Venom symbiote is now in the MCU from the post credits. Secret Wars is right around the corner. That was the debut of the black suit. There's a lot of things pointing in that direction, and Peter's current emotional state leaves him vulnerable to a story about the black suit. I do not envy whoever is up to bat to write and direct a Spider-Man story if that is the direction they want to head in.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this is a tough fucking act to follow.
Not only is it a tough act to follow, this game uses, I mean, like, you can't even do what this game does in a movie, strictly speaking, on time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the reason it works so well is that, like, yeah, the pace at which stuff happens can feel kind of quick, but on the whole, it's a slow burn for how
Yeah.
things kind of crescendo into
Yeah.
the last act of the story.
Yeah.
And so
Once it does hit that last act, though, it's fucking sprinting in a good way. Like it doesn't feel rushed. Like,
well, and that's
there's a level of fuck you're supposed to be feeling because it feels like you've lost control of a vehicle.
And there's also like, this I would say this game follows a very similar structure to the first game in terms of plot.
Mm.
Without spoiling anything, there's like the opening third, the middle third, where you feel like, and like obviously you haven't finished the game, but it feels like the game's wrapping up, and then the final act is the final act. But in this game does such a better job of seamlessly connecting those moments.
Yeah.
Where like there's a moment where like you can clearly feel this is taking Martin Lee to the raft.
Yeah.
But
Doc Ock is about to release Devil's Breath.
Yeah, as opposed to that where like there's a solid break of we've beaten Martin Lee, we're taking him to the raft. Oh, here's the back half of the game.
Yeah.
You see what's coming, not necessarily from a mile away, but like you can feel, because there's more pieces, it lets that tension still be there. So when they all connect, to me, it worked a lot better because
I
there was
agree.
never a moment of downtime where I was like, "Is this game over? What?"
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, and then this can be kind of like the final word of like doing like a spoiler-free discussion about the story. I think this game plays with a sense of dramatic irony that like even the most layman of Spider-Man fan knows how these stories work.
Yeah.
Like there's certain pieces of iconography and certain motifs and certain beats that like, again, like I love using this example talking about like beautiful dramatic irony. The novelization for Revenge of the Sith. Hold on. I want to pull up like the opening of it. Because it sets the stage so well.
While you look for that,
I did not
will
expect
voice.
to find a PDF that quickly.
Well,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine. Read your thing. I'll say what I want to say because it's in the same vein.
One moment. This story happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It is already over. Nothing can be done to change it. It is a story of love and loss, brotherhood and betrayal, courage and sacrifice, and the death of dreams. It is a story of the blurred line of the blurred lines between our best and our worst. It is the story of the end of an age. It goes on. I'll go to the end because it is the best part. The story of an end of an age, a strange thing about stories. Though this has all happened so long ago and so far away that words could not describe the time or the distance, it is also happening right now, right here. It is happening as you read these words. This is how 25 millennia come to a close. Corruption and treachery have crushed 1,000 years of peace. This is not just the end of a republic. Night is falling on civilization itself. It is the twilight of the Jedi. The end starts now. Especially that first line and that last line. The story happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It is already over. Nothing can be done to change it. There is a sense I got that reminded me of these opening lines. The moment you see the symbiote from the first time, of like, this is going to end in disaster. And it's just going to have to happen. And you see things throughout the story that you're like, fuck. Like specific things. Like I'm not saying events or moments. Like there are physical constructs in the physical world of this game that you see and you go, oh man. And it plays with that dramatic irony because we as the audience know how these stories play out.
Yeah.
The same way you as the viewer of the prequel trilogy, you know what's about to happen, you know, like it, and there's just this sense of like of preordained calamity that is so overwhelming.
There's an unwritten video essay, or hell, maybe even like master's or doctoral thesis on the evolution of storytelling when it comes to like our modern myth of comic book heroes.
Yeah.
We're reaching a point now where these writers now have an extra axis to play with. And it's the axis of, I almost said customer, but like, I mean, kind of, right? But viewer
Reader,
knowledge,
whatever.
the
Yeah.
viewer reader knowledge of what's happening. We're like, part of the hit of the moment of the portal scene in Endgame is not just, oh, good backup showed up. There's an emotional beat for people like us to appreciate the fact that this happened, that we got to a point where we got to experience these superheroes being in a screen, in a story for us.
All at once, all together.
Like in live action. Like
Yeah.
real people are in costumes on a set right now showing this to us. The No Way Home does it with Toby and Andrew, that like that those moments hit because we've lived with those myths for so long that now getting to see them in their final ultimate form feels so empowering and cool. And to a lesser degree, when we know the basic structure of these stories so well, like we know the story of Batman so well. That's why The Batman is the best Batman movie ever made, because it understands so much about what Batman is, what Batman's story is, and when you isolate the moments in that story, what you can do with like within that time frame. And so doing that with Spider-Man in this case, and like doing that in a 18-hour epic with one of the most iconic Spider-Man stories of all time, with that extra axis of we know what they're looking for. We know that the person experiencing this has a knowledge of what's happening. Their emotional investment is empowered by by our previous writing,
Even a
and by
passing knowledge. Like I think somebody who's only seen the movies and maybe watched a few TV shows and played a bunch of video games, if you've only ever seen Spider-Man 3 and that's kind of the beginning and end of your like familiarity with like a symbiote story, that still applies to you.
yeah, like that axis of you, like in terms of writing, knowing how to utilize that to the fullest. And I mean, we've seen it not work, right? I'm looking at the Flash.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of like, we think we can utilize this to engage with our audience and like express our art more. And like,
And it caves in on itself.
Because in the case of the Flash, it's not to actually express something. It's just for the shock value versus like the expression that we're supposed to take in from the portal scene is, oh my god, like it's the reason Endgame. I don't cry in Endgame because Tony dies. I cry in Endgame when I watch Avengers Assemble and they start to run in slow-mo because I'm like, oh my god, I live in a world where I get to watch real people in spandex run at each other on a battlefield. And it's the highest grossing movie, one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Like, that's so incredible to me. It means so much to me. In the same way that seeing this story told in such a beautiful and like incredible way is like they know where it's fallen before and they've actually innovated on that. And they know what they can and can't do, and they know what they have the ability to do in terms of their medium. And like it's so good. It's so perfect. Pay your writers.
Pay your writers, pay your actors. Holy hot damn. But yeah, I think that's the end of our conversation tonight. Travis, where can the lovely people find you?
They can find me on Twitter, probably gushing more about this game as I go beat it in the next like 20 minutes.
You're not going to beat it in 20 minutes. I can confidently tell you this is not just
mission.
This is not just going to fight Doc Ock. Good luck. May the force be with you. Though the age of heroes is ending, it has saved its greatest heroes for last. That's the end of the introduction for Avengers. Yeah. God, that book goes so fucking hard. Anyway, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dark Jedi 2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where you can click on that student store link and hook yourself up with some TNAT merch.
T-shirt, tpublic.com.
You can also, if you're feeling generous and want to chuck in a buck, bringing that one back a little bit, go to our Patreon page where you can help support the show.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Steal yourself, Colin! Steal yourself!
This is me stealing myself!
To Elix Jones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And to Ray Clausen, who asks that you donate to Equality Texas and help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State. Speaking of our Patreon, the Versus series is back. At the time that you're watching this, Darth Crate versus Darth Sidious should be posted up. So go check that out. Donate to the $5 tier. Thank you to new $5 patron Buck O'Brien for supporting the show. Greatly appreciated. Hopefully by the end of the week, we will have Luke Skywalker versus Darth Bane out. And then hopefully next week we'll get Lord Vader, pre-suit Vader versus Jedi Survivor Cal Kestis. And with that, we'll be caught up. So yeah, Travis, your fucking face. How far into Ahsoka are you?
I've watched the 2 episodes the two important what I'm going to call the two important episodes, not to diminish the series, but like I've seen just the incredible artistic shot of Anakin walking into the dust cloud. Like
And flashing into Vader.
immaculate art.
Listen, I said it on KNR and I'll say it again here. I said it on KNR and I'm going to say it again here. My poor girlfriend deserves a medal for having to watch that with me.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. Because I was watching it.
You have no idea the amount of "Hey, are you doing okay?" texts I got.
Yeah, because again, I didn't watch the week it came out. I knew there was a flashback sequence, and then we went to Levi's. It was Mike, me, Lexi, Levi, and Levi and I were like, we don't care. Like, they watched the newest episode, but Mike wanted to watch 5, I think, the first one with Anakin.
Yeah, Shadow Warrior episode 5.
Yeah, wanted to watch 5 again, and Lexi was like, "Yeah, I'll watch it again. It was incredible." And Levi and I were like, "This is the only episode we really care about, so sure, we'll watch it."
Yeah.
And so watching it, I was like, "God, I love Star Wars."
The fact that I did not like just have an excitement-induced seizure, and I want to say, for the record, people will know this. Like we said we were going to do Lord Vader versus Cal before that episode came out. Spencer and I had already decided on the year's lineup in January, and originally the plan was to do Redeemed Ventress versus Cal, Circus Survivor. And then I played the fucking game. I went, this is not a fair fight.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Ventress is good. Ventress is a Jedi killer. She's going to get fucking dog walked. I cannot do a fight like this. And originally it was going to be Stellan Gios versus Anakin. But then Survivor came out. So I was like, okay, how about we do Dagan Gera? You know, the shining light of what represents the High Republic era Jedi against a lunatic of that same era who lost his way. And we pit Survivor Cal up against, Lord Vader. And then the episode came out and I went, oh, I'm going to cry. I cried. But then like the versus part of my brain went, oh yeah. But anyway, look forward to that on the Patreon. Again, $5 tier, patreon.com/the Nerd Academy podcast. $5 tier gets you access to our Patreon exclusive content. And at the $10 tier, you get shouted out at the end of every episode. We will see you guys next week. It might be a several episode drop week. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to shake out. There's another episode that I want to do. Okay, so I'm just going to say it real quick. The episode I want to take our dear friend Boop from the Nerd Herder podcast, and I want to team up with them to take a poor soul who knows nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's and explain the lore at them. I don't know if that episode's going to pan out schedule-wise. We'll see. Hopefully we're able to get somebody in for that. Some poor crash test on me. I want somebody who has nothing. Travis, you've gotten too much by osmosis.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed anymore. You're not allowed anymore. 2 years ago, you'd have been my first fucking choice to just talk about FNAF. I can't use you anymore.
Yeah.
My original plan was to do it with the guys from the Bombad cast. Because something about Scotty J. Rowe saying the name William Afton is deeply funny to me. But it might end up having to be somebody else. And I want it to coincide with the movie. And hopefully we'll get a movie review out for it that will also feature Boop. Fingers crossed. And then at some point, by the end of the year, we're also going to do a movies we wanted to review but didn't get a chance to episode. That will be headlined by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I promise. But anyway, all of that said, expect at least a few episodes next week. Check out the Patreon, and class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!
I'm at the gun.